I was stuck in a hospital bed after a crash, and my mom sold my car behind my back. My uncle cashed the check, and my sister said I never deserved it. So I got up and walked straight to a lawyer who knew exactly what to do. The day I found out what they did, I was still hooked up to a morphine drip. My ribs were wired. My right leg was in a cast, and every breath hurt like hell. I'd been in the hospital for 3 weeks after my car accident, just trying to heal and figure out what my next move was. I thought I could at least depend on my family, especially my mom, to keep things together while I was down. Then one morning, I noticed my car wasn't in the parking lot anymore. It had been sitting in the hospital's long-term lot since the crash, and my plan was to have it towed and repaired once I was out. But when I asked my mom about it, she said, flat out, "Oh, honey, don't worry about that old thing. We already sold it." That hit me like another crash. "We?" I asked, trying to sit up despite the pain. "What do you mean, you sold it? That's my car." She just sighed, like I was being dramatic. "It was sitting there costing money. Your uncle found a buyer. You can thank him later." My head spun. I'd worked 2 years to buy that car, paid every cent myself. And now she was talking about it like it was some old couch she gave away. "Where's the money then?" I asked, already knowing something was off. She avoided my eyes. "Your uncle handled it. He said he'd cash the check since you can't exactly get to the bank right now." My blood pressure monitor started beeping. "He cashed it. Don't start this, please," she said sharply. "We used some of it to pay your medical bills and help your sister with her college fund. You should be grateful." That word, grateful, made me see red. Grateful that they'd stolen from me while I was lying in a hospital bed? Grateful that my sister, who'd mocked my car since I bought it, was now benefiting from it? Later that evening, my sister came in eating a cup of yogurt, looking smug. "You didn't even deserve that car," she said casually, like she was doing me a favor by saying it. "You drive like a maniac. Honestly, we probably saved your life selling it." I just stared at her. The drip beeped again. I could taste bile in my throat. I didn't trust myself to speak. That night I couldn't sleep. My body ached, but my anger burned hotter than the pain. I knew I wasn't crazy, what they did was theft. I pulled my phone from the drawer, still weak as hell, and started Googling. I searched for "family sells my car without permission," and one word kept coming up: fraud. The next morning, I pressed the nurse button, demanded my crutches, and told the doctor I needed discharge paperwork. He tried to tell me I wasn't ready. I told him I didn't care. I'd rather limp into hell than lie in that bed while they spent my money. 2 hours later, I was standing outside the hospital with a discharge form in one hand and my phone in the other. I called a number I'd found online for a local lawyer with a reputation for family dispute cases. He answered on the second ring. "Law Office of Travis G. Moore," he said. "How can I help you?" I took a deep breath and said, "My mom sold my car while I was in the hospital. My uncle cashed the check. I want to know what I can do about it." He paused for a second, then said something that made my pulse slow down for the first time all day. "Oh, I know exactly what to do." And that's when things started to get real. Before the crash, my life wasn't exactly perfect, but I was proud of what I'd built. I'm 25, live in Sacramento, and had finally gotten a decent job at a logistics company after years of bouncing between part-time gigs. That car, a 2018 Honda Civic C, was the first big thing I'd ever bought completely on my own. No cosigner, no family help, just me, my savings, and a ton of overtime. My mom always acted like it was some kind of vanity purchase. "Why'd you get a sporty one? You should have just bought something practical," she'd say. But the truth was, she couldn't stand that I'd done something without her. She liked to be the one who fixed things for everyone, especially for my sister, Lauren. Lauren was the golden child. Straight A student, scholarship to UC Davis, social media perfect. I was the one who struggled. Every time something went wrong for me, Mom turned it into another story about how Lauren did everything right. Then came the crash. It wasn't my fault. Some guy blew a red light on Florin Road and T-boned me hard enough to spin my car twice. I woke up in the hospital with a broken leg, 3 cracked ribs, and a concussion. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. Mom showed up that first night acting all worried, crying, holding my hand. But by the third day, she was treating me like an inconvenience. She'd say things like, "You should have been more careful," and "You really put us in a hard spot." Meanwhile, I noticed she'd started taking photos of the car from different angles when she came to check on it. I thought it was weird, but she said it was for insurance purposes. I didn't find out until later that she'd already been in contact with my Uncle Ray about selling it. Ray's one of those guys who always has a deal going on. He's been in and out of small trouble his whole life. Nothing major, just shady stuff. He's also Mom's older brother, and she trusts him way more than she should. The car was technically titled in my name only. I checked that when I bought it. The insurance policy was mine too. But while I was drugged up on morphine, Mom went through my desk drawer at home, took the title, and forged my signature on the transfer. Ray handled the sale. The buyer, a used car lot owner, apparently didn't even check ID. I didn't know any of that yet when I called the lawyer. At that point, all I knew was that they'd sold something that didn't belong to them and kept the money. When I met with the lawyer, Travis, 2 days after leaving the hospital, he had this calm, focused look that made me feel like I wasn't crazy. I told him everything. The accident, the car, my mom, my uncle. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "This is classic conversion and title fraud. If the title's in your name, they had no right to sell it. And if your uncle cashed the check under false pretenses, we're talking felony fraud." I blinked. "You mean they could actually go to jail?" He nodded. "If we can prove it. But first, we'll need to find out exactly how they did it, and who helped." That's when he opened a folder and said something that chilled me. "I've handled a case like this before. In fact, your uncle's name rings a bell." I stared at him. "What do you mean?" He flipped through a few papers and gave me a look that said everything. "Let's just say," he said slowly, "you're not the first person he's stolen from." Over the next week, things started unraveling fast. Travis told me not to contact my mom or uncle directly. He said we needed to document everything before they had time to cover their tracks. That was hard because every instinct in me wanted to scream at them. But I kept quiet. I played weak, just like Travis said. He sent an investigator to the car lot that bought my Civic. The guy didn't even hesitate when asked for the bill of sale. He handed it over with the original check attached. A cashier's check made out to me. The signature on the back wasn't mine. It was a messy scribble that looked vaguely like my name, but not even close if you knew how I actually signed. The endorsement line had a note under it that said, "Power of Attorney, Ray W." Ray didn't have my power of attorney. When Travis showed me that, I felt this mix of nausea and rage. "They really thought I'd never find out," I muttered. Travis nodded. "They probably figured you'd be laid up for months, and by then the money would be gone." He was right. When I checked my bank account, there was no sign of any deposit from the car sale. Nothing. But what made it worse was the text I got from my mom that night. "You need to stop this nonsense. Your uncle was only trying to help. You should be thanking us for taking care of things while you were out of commission." I didn't reply. I forwarded it straight to Travis. 2 days later, I got a knock on my apartment door. It was Lauren. She stood there with that fake sweet smile she always used when she was about to say something cruel. "You're making Mom sick with all this lawyer stuff," she said. "Do you even care what she's been through? She's been crying every night." "Yeah," I said flatly, "probably from guilt." Her smile faltered. "You really think you can sue your own family?" "I don't think. I know." That wiped the smirk off her face. She crossed her arms and said, "You're not getting that money back anyway. It's already gone." "Gone where?" I asked. She looked away. "Doesn't matter. You shouldn't have left your stuff lying around if you didn't want someone to deal with it." That's when it hit me. She wasn't just covering for Mom. She knew exactly where the money went. After she left, I called Travis and told him what she said. He paused for a long second and then asked, "Did you ever give your mother or sister access to any of your accounts?" "No," I said. "Never." "Good," he replied, "because from what I'm hearing, this might go deeper than just the car." I want you to pull your credit report. Now. I did it while we were still on the phone. And when the page loaded, my stomach dropped. There were 3 new credit accounts under my name, none of which I'd opened. 2 maxed-out cards and a furniture loan from some store in Folsom. Travis? I said slowly. Someone's been using my name. He sighed like he'd expected that. That's what I thought. Looks like your family didn't just sell your car. They've been using your identity while you were in the hospital. I felt sick. My mom, my uncle, my sister. All of them had been smiling at me in that hospital room, acting like they cared, while they were draining my life dry behind my back. Travis said, "Don't panic. We'll get them. But you need to understand something. You're not dealing with family anymore. You're dealing with criminals." That night, I sat in the dark, staring at my leg brace and my hospital band still on the table. My whole life felt hijacked. And then, the next morning, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize that made my blood run cold. It was my Uncle Ray. He said, "You better stop digging, kid. You don't know what you're getting into." I played that voicemail at least 10 times. Every time I heard his voice, my stomach clenched tighter. He didn't sound scared. He sounded confident, like someone who knew exactly how much power he had over me. I sent the recording straight to Travis. He called me back almost immediately. "We're escalating," he said. "You're not just dealing with a civil issue anymore. That's witness intimidation." He had me come into the office that afternoon. When I walked in, he already had a file open on his desk with my uncle's name printed on it. "Remember how I said his name rang a bell?" Travis asked. I nodded. He turned the file around. There it was, Raymond Walters, charged 2 years ago for running a fake car title operation with a used car dealer in Citrus Heights. The case got dropped when one of the witnesses backed out at the last second. Travis said quietly, "That witness? Your mom." My throat went dry. "What?" "She testified early on but then withdrew her statement right before trial. Without her, the DA couldn't make the case stick." He walked. I leaned back, trying to process it. "So she's been covering for him for years." "Looks that way," Travis said. "And now she's part of it." He showed me the documents from the car sale, the signature, the fake power of attorney, and the check cashed through a small check cashing business in Del Paso Heights. Guess who owned that business? One of Ray's old associates from that same dropped case. It all started connecting in my head like a bad movie. My mom wasn't just naive or manipulated. She knew what she was doing. She was helping Ray launder money through the car sale. I asked Travis what we could do next, and he said we'd file a police report for identity theft, fraud, and conversion. But he warned me it could take time and the family would probably retaliate. I didn't have to wait long. That night, I got home and found my apartment door unlocked. Nothing was stolen, but everything felt off. My drawers were slightly open. My documents moved around. On my kitchen table sat a note written in my mom's handwriting. "You're tearing this family apart. Stop before you regret it." That was it. No signature, no explanation. Just that threat disguised as motherly guilt. I took photos, sent them to Travis, and stayed at a friend's place that night. The next morning, I went to the police station and filed the report. The officer listened, took my statement and said, "You did the right thing, but I'm going to be honest. These cases get messy when it's family." Messy didn't even begin to cover it. A week later, the investigator Travis hired found out something new. The $14,500 from the car sale had been deposited into my mom's account, withdrawn in cash the same day, and then wired, half to a business under Ray's name, half to a new joint account between my mom and my sister. When I saw the statement, my hands were shaking so bad I had to sit down. "She opened an account with her?" I whispered. "Yep," Travis said. "Looks like your mom's been grooming your sister to take over the scam. She's learning from the best." That broke me more than anything. I thought maybe Lauren was just spoiled or manipulated. But no, she was in it. Completely. Then Travis said, "You ready for this?" and handed me one last paper. It was a text message printout pulled from my sister's phone records, sent the night after the car was sold. It read, "Mom said he'll never know. He's too doped up to notice. Easy money. That was the moment the last bit of hope I had for them died. I looked at Travis and said, "Okay, let's destroy them." When I sat down with Travis that afternoon, I was still half dizzy from everything, the voicemail, the bank statements, the texts. I expected him to say, "File suit," and push a stack of forms at me. Instead, he laid out a plan so surgical it felt like a scalpel. "First," he said, "we freeze the money." He explained it like I hadn't eaten in days and this was dinner. "We get an emergency injunction to freeze your mom and sister's accounts, and we file a civil conversion claim. That stops them from moving the funds while we trace it." The word injunction sounded like revenge wrapped in law. I wanted it yesterday. Second, he wanted criminal referrals. "Identity theft, check fraud, and forging a title are criminal," he said. "I'll prepare a packet for the DA. Your uncle's history makes it easier to convince them to prosecute." I felt something cold and steady rise in my chest. Relief and fear braided together. Prosecution meant they might go to jail. It also meant my whole family would be dragged into courtrooms and subpoenas and public records. I breathed and let the idea burn slow. Third was evidence. Travis had already nailed down the bill of sale and the cashier's check endorsement. But he wanted more. Security footage from the hospital lot, copies of all texts and calls, the check cashing store's ledger, and bank withdrawal slips. He asked me for the smallest things. Dates I'd spoken to Mom from the hospital, the nurse who'd seen her the night she checked on the car. I dug through messages until my fingers cramped. I called the hospital and, with the same voice I used to demand discharge, asked for visitor logs. They said records might be available. I felt like a detective in my own life. Then he dropped the part that really hit me, civil strategy beyond the money. "We're not just taking back what's yours," he said. "We'll file for emotional distress and punitive damages. We'll make the court understand this wasn't a heat-of-the-moment theft. It was calculated. Identity theft, laundering, and grooming your sister to participate. Punitive damages punish behavior and message to your family." My throat closed. Punitive damages. The phrase tasted like gasoline. He also wanted to use leverage. "If they think the DA is watching, they'll crack," he said. "We'll subpoena cell records, compel testimony, and use the bank's internal emails. We may even get a cooperating witness. Someone in Ray's circle who's fed up." I pictured Uncle Ray's friends turning on him for immunity. The image made me sick and oddly satisfied. We planned the timing down to the hour. Travis would file the injunction first thing Monday, then deliver the criminal packet to the DA the same day. I was to keep my head down, act like nothing was happening, and let him pull the strings. It felt weird, letting someone else move while I sat with the pain in my ribs and the cast on my leg. But I also felt safe, like I'd been handed a map through a minefield. Before I left his office, he slid one more thing across the desk. A printed photo that he said came from an unrelated source. It was a grainy still of the hospital lot. My Civic in the frame and two figures leaning near it, one holding what looked like a stack of papers. I squinted. One figure was unmistakably my mom. The other, hunched and wearing a cap, looked like Ray. "How'd you get this?" I asked. Travis didn't smile. "A friend in the evidence unit owed me a favor. They'd CCTV'd the lot weeks ago for a different case. Your mom and Ray show up together at 2:14 a.m. The person who captured it requested anonymity, but it proves they were at the scene." I felt the floor tilt. That photo could turn whispers into prosecution, could blow apart whatever story they'd tell, could bring everything to light. "You ready?" Travis asked, folding his hands like a judge. I wanted to shout, to run home and beat down their doors. Instead, I felt the quiet, dangerous clarity of someone who's been wronged and finally has a route to right it. "Ready," I said. As I walked out of his office, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "You should stop. You don't want the photos to be public." I kept walking. The plan was set. The next move was his and theirs. That text, "You don't want the photos to be public," hit me harder than I expected. At first, I thought it was another scare tactic from Ray. But photos? What photos? I hadn't done anything worth blackmail. I forwarded the message to Travis. He called right away. "Do not reply," he said. "If they're bluffing, we'll catch them lying. If they're not, we'll find out what they have." 2 days later, I found out. I was sitting in my apartment, trying to rest my leg, when a private number called. I let it go to voicemail, but the message made my stomach twist. "If you want to keep your job, stop dragging your family's name through the mud. The company doesn't like bad press." It was my boss. I called him back immediately, demanding to know what he meant. He sighed, almost embarrassed. "Your mother sent some things to HR," he said. "Photos, screenshots. Said you were unstable, maybe using pills after your accident. She said she was worried for your safety, and ours." I just sat there in silence. My mom had tried to get me fired. When I finally spoke, my voice shook. "You believe her?" He hesitated. "Look, you're a good worker. But HR wants you on temporary leave until this clears up." By the time the call ended, my whole world felt smaller. My job gone. My car stolen. My family poisoned. And now my reputation under attack. I called Travis again, my voice breaking. He was quiet for a few seconds, then said, "I'm sorry, kid, but this changes everything. She's trying to paint you as incompetent so she can undermine your credibility in court." It made sick sense. If she could make me look unstable, the fraud case would seem like a family misunderstanding instead of a deliberate con. But then Travis said something else. "She didn't send those from her phone. The emails came from a new Gmail account under your name." I froze. "My name?" "Yeah," he said. "She created a fake email pretending to be you. She sent messages to herself and CC'd your job, saying things like, 'I can't control my temper, and my family's trying to help me, but I'm losing it.' It's a digital forgery trail." I felt dizzy. How the hell did she even get away with that? "Simple," Travis said. "She used your laptop, the same one she took from your apartment when she left that note." That's when I realized. When I came home that night and noticed my drawers open, she didn't just snoop, she planted evidence. Travis leaned forward and said, "We can prove it. Metadata doesn't lie. Every email has a fingerprint, the IP address, the device, the timestamp. Once we pull that, it's over." He was right, but I wasn't ready for what came next. A week later, Travis called and said, "We traced the IP address." I expected him to say it led back to my mom's house, but he didn't. "It came from a library computer in Elk Grove," he said. "Security cameras show your mom walking in, but she wasn't alone." "Who was with her?" I asked. He hesitated. "Your sister. She's the one who typed the emails." That hit me harder than any crash ever could. All this time, I thought Lauren was just a spoiled pawn in Mom's game. But she wasn't. She was driving it. Travis continued, "We've got enough to file criminal charges now. But there's something else. You're not the only person they've done this to. I got a call from another attorney. Apparently, your uncle and mother used the same fake power of attorney trick to drain a cousin's insurance payout 5 years ago. The whole family was a machine, a fraud ring wearing the mask of relatives." That night, I sat staring at a photo on my nightstand, me, Mom, and Lauren at my college graduation. Mom's arm around me, Lauren smiling too wide. I used to think that was love. Now it looked like something else, ownership. And as I looked at that picture, something inside me hardened. It wasn't just about getting my money back anymore. It was about burning down the whole rotten structure they'd built. So when Travis asked the next morning if I was ready to go public, to take everything to the DA and media, I didn't hesitate. "Yeah," I said. "Let's show everyone who they really are." When the DA's investigator finally sat down with me, she didn't waste time. She had a manila folder thick with photos, transaction logs, and signed statements. I could tell from the way she looked at me that what she was about to say wasn't going to be easy to hear. She started slowly. "You probably think your mom did all this for money, but there's more to it." I leaned forward, bracing myself. Turns out my mom hadn't just sold my car for cash. She'd used that sale as a way to clean money she already had. Money that wasn't hers to begin with. About 6 months before my crash, she and Uncle Ray had pulled a smaller version of this scheme on another family member, my cousin Mark. He'd gotten a $20,000 insurance payout after a work injury, and somehow my mom had convinced him to let her handle the paperwork. Within weeks, half of it was gone, transferred by mistake. When Mark threatened to go to the cops, my mom guilted him out of it, saying, "You'd ruin the family." After that, she and Ray had a setup going: find relatives with assets or payouts, create fake power of attorney documents, sell property, and funnel the money through small accounts under new names. But here's the twist. The investigator said the reason I became their next target wasn't random. It was deliberate, planned months before my crash. She slid a paper toward me. It was an email from Ray to my mom, dated 2 weeks before my accident. The subject line read, "Next one's easy." The body said, "He's young, careless, and still trusts you. If anything happens, we'll just call it a favor. Cars in his name only, perfect target." I read it 3 times before I could even breathe. "If anything happens?" I whispered. "What does that mean?" The investigator's face went tight. "That's what we're still looking into. There's no proof they caused the crash, but there's reason to believe they were planning something around your car anyway. Maybe insurance fraud, maybe resale." My blood ran cold. She went on, "Your uncle's known for staging small accidents to get quick cash from insurance claims. We think he may have planned to borrow your car one night for that, but when the Real accident happened, they took advantage of it instead." I just stared at her. "So you're saying they didn't even care that I could have died? They just saw an opportunity?" She nodded slowly. "Exactly that. That was the moment I stopped feeling like a victim. I felt like prey, like my entire life had been a setup. My mom hadn't just betrayed me. She'd targeted me, counted on me being too trusting, too hurt, too medicated to notice. When I told Travis, he wasn't surprised. "They always tell themselves they're helping," he said, "that they're protecting you from yourself or doing what's best for the family. But it's control. Plain and simple. Your mom didn't want you independent. That car represented freedom. She couldn't stand it. It hit me like a punch. Every time she criticized that car, it wasn't about safety, it was jealousy. She'd spent her life trying to hold power over everyone around her, and I'd slipped away. Taking that car, that money, even my job. It was her way of dragging me back under." The investigator said they'd be filing formal charges within a week. Fraud, forgery, identity theft, and, depending on the evidence, possible conspiracy to defraud with intent to conceal income. But none of that compared to what she said last. "Your mother told us, when we first questioned her, that she only did what she did because you owed her your life. She said, 'He wouldn't even be here if I hadn't raised him. That car was mine in a way he'll never understand.' I just sat there, numb. That was her reason. That cold, delusional logic. She honestly believed I was property. When I left the DA's office that day, I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. There's a difference between wanting revenge and needing closure. But for the first time, I wanted both. Because she didn't just steal from me. She tried to erase me. And the next step wasn't about money or justice anymore. It was about making sure none of them ever got away with it again." When the DA filed charges, it was like watching a storm roll in. Slow, unstoppable, and louder every day. My mom, my uncle, and my sister were each served with felony fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy charges. They thought I'd back off when it got real. I didn't. Travis warned me it might drag on for months. But I was patient. Every document, every subpoena, every hearing, I showed up. Cast on my leg, folder in my hand. I wanted them to see what I looked like now. Not broken. Not scared. Just done. Mom tried to call me the week after her arrest. I let it ring. She left a voicemail crying, saying things like, "You're my son. You can't do this to me." It didn't move me. The DA had already shown me bank logs proving she'd transferred $5,000 from that stolen money to Lauren's college account 2 days after selling my car. "For a better future," she'd written in the memo line. My future apparently didn't count. The best part came when Travis called me into his office again, smiling for once. "They took a deal," he said. "Ray gets 18 months in county. Your mom gets probation and restitution. Your sister gets a felony expungement agreement if she testifies against them. I stared at him. She's turning on them? He nodded. Looks like it. She admitted she forged the emails and created the fake Gmail. Said your mom made her do it. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I finally understood what my family really was. A tower built on lies, collapsing under its own weight. Restitution came in slow, small payments. $400 here, $300 there. But Travis had already helped me seize the joint account before they could drain it. Between that and the injunction, I got back almost every dollar from the car. I didn't want the car anymore, though. I used that money for something else. I moved. New apartment, new city, Reno. Found a small job at a warehouse, quiet and steady. I didn't tell anyone except Travis. Changed my number. Blocked my entire family. One night, about 2 months later, I got a letter forwarded from his office. It was from my mom. Handwritten in blue ink. No apology. Just a few bitter lines. You ruined our lives over a car. I hope you're proud of yourself. You'll see what happens when you have no one left. I folded it up, put it in the same drawer as my hospital wristband and the photo from graduation, and then I burned all 3 in the sink. Watched the smoke curl up, gray and thin, and felt something I hadn't felt in months, peace. The DA later told me that Ray tried to flip on someone bigger, a car lot owner who'd been laundering through fake sales. The case spread wider than I could have imagined. My family had been a small piece of a much larger machine. That's what greed does. It keeps growing until it eats itself. Now, sometimes, I still drive past dealerships and feel a twinge. Not anger anymore, just memory. That car was freedom once. Losing it taught me what freedom really costs. I'll never get back the family I thought I had. But I don't want them anymore. Because I finally understood something my mom never did. You can rebuild money, you can replace a car, but once you sell your soul for control, there's no buying it back. So yeah, I walked into that lawyer's office broken, and I walked out with everything that mattered. Closure, proof, and peace. And if anyone ever asks what happened to the people who sold my car behind my back, I just tell them, they learned what happens when you treat someone's life like property.